Hi, and welcome to another interview with Using Your Mind for a Change, Making Weight Loss Easier. I'm your host, Jean Natray, weight loss expert, and I'm joined today by Dr. Cam McDonald. He is with the Ultimate Human Foundation, and I'll let him talk to us about what that foundation is. Hi, Dr. Cam. Thanks for joining us today.
It is so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about your foundation, please.
Fantastic. Well, the Ultimate Human Foundation is an organization I'm involved with, and effectively they set out around about 20 years ago to end chronic disease and pain by the year 2050. That was their mission that they set out to do. They're a not-for-profit, and in amongst many of the activities that they do, the driving philosophy of it is that every single person is unique, and that therefore everybody will need something slightly different in order for them to be in their best health. And so from that was born a number of different channels. We're working with governments around the world, we're working with larger corporates, and we're also working with the science and medicine fraternity, particularly with a science or a lifestyle medicine application that we have called PH360, which is Personal Health 360. And the purpose of that tool effectively is to quantify a person very, very quickly. And in about 30 minutes, we can understand a huge amount around how their body functions, whether it be the types of foods they need, the type of exercise that's best for them, and even into their brain type, and as to what is going to motivate a person better. How's their brain going to go out of stress? And all of this is done in a very, very specific way, so much so that you'll get exactly the type of vegetable that you need at the right timing that you need, all based on chronobiology and many, many layers of science within the application. This can be done in conjunction with a health professional or at home. And really the message is well, if we can quantify you as an individual, then we can tell you exactly what you need to do to put your body into its best state of health. And a big part of that from my practice, I've been practicing with the tool now for about 5 years, and now I educate health professionals internationally to use it. We've been finding that people are very disconnected with themselves. They don't know exactly what is right for them. They're hearing a lot of information from a one-size-fits-all model from different gurus who have a different idea about health, and they're all right. And we believe that they're all right. It just depends on them being right for the right person. And so our mission is very much to get people much more aware of the idea that, I am actually different. I think differently to this person. I need different food to that person over there. I need to be exercising slightly differently to that person too. And this is very much a hub to allow that to happen very quickly.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I took that test this morning, actually, in becoming acquainted with your work. And I was pretty amazed at how right on it seemed to be for me. Just by giving certain attributes of my physical body, you could tell something about my social propensities.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty fascinating. And so we're going to talk about how what you offer can affect weight loss and empower women in their quest for weight loss. What would you say about that, Dr. Cam?
Yeah, it's a big one. So, and just to make sure we clarify as well, that little test that you've done, that's the one we'll definitely make available at the end of today. That's a 3-minute. The full assessment is much more accurate, and it gets right down into the very specifics, gives you a full readout as well. So there's 2 versions, but the initial one is very, very useful as well, and it's a cool thing to really get acquainted with the different types. As far as how this information, and let alone, let's just leave the app out of it right now, but just the understanding of personalization, what it does is it really helps individuals understand what are the things that put my body into the state where it feels strongest and most resilient, and the least requiring of safety mechanisms. And the reason why I say safety mechanisms is because fat tissue is a safety mechanism. When the body gets stressed, certain bodies, and maybe 60% of the population, when they get stressed, their body will gain weight. And this is to protect them. It's to say, okay, this environment right now is not safe. I'm going to slow my metabolism down. I'm going to eat a little bit more food. I'm actually going to drive myself to sit on the couch a little bit longer and do less so that I can hold and conserve, because I need to be able to survive this stress. And that stress can come from many different places. So understanding personalized sciences, it helps you understand exactly the thing that is going to create stress in your brain and in what priority. Some people, work stress is the most stressful thing ever because their brain is all about work. I just want to focus on my progression. I want to focus on my status. And while they don't say that out loud, it may actually trump parenting time sometimes, or family time. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to work. I'm going to put my blinkers on. And when that work is not happy, it creates a significant stress in that brain. However, there's other brains that don't have as many dopamine receptors in their prefrontal cortex. This is genetically driven, and they don't have that drive, or they don't have that amount of requirement for dopamine and that progression. In fact, they've got a lot more prolactin. And prolactin is a nurturing hormone. The psychological profile of that makes you want to look after other people's goals, not your own. And so for that person, their career progression is not the big thing that they're after. It's actually, is my family safe? Am I looking after the health of my family? Prolactin drives that, just as it drives breast milk. I'm going to give all my nutrients and expect nothing in return except cleaning up vomit and wiping nappies. It's the most selfless thing ever to give away your breast milk. And this hormone, for certain people, it's actually it makes up a large part of their physiology as to what drives it. So when we're talking about empowerment, because there's women out there who want to take on the world and want to be CEOs of companies and want to be sitting on boards and really commanding and bringing compassion and bringing their edge to the corporate world. And then there's other women who want to be empowered to be the best mother that they can. And it's very, very important that you understand what's going to be most powerful for your body, because if you can then satisfy that and make that stress more safe, then what you want to do will be able to actually happen a lot more easily, and you'll be in flow a whole lot more of the time, which is something that we talk about a lot.
Excellent, excellent. So is there a blood test involved in this test, Dr. Cam?
They spent a lot of time, the short answer is no. They spent a lot of time developing a model that allows you to measure yourself with a tape measure. And you measure 18 different spots around your body, which very accurately quantifies the size and shape of your body. And what we know from endocrinology is that the body only takes on a certain shape because of the hormones that are available to it.
Oh,
and so
wow.
by understanding the shape of the body, and then a lot of other things like hair color, eye color, skin tone, disease history, even developmental milestones, things like that. We understand a lot about the development. We understand things about genetics, and we also understand things about gene expression. And so if you're doing it by yourself, it takes about 45 minutes, but it actually gives you all of the information, and all you need is a tape measure and a hand and a foot to be able to measure. And if you have those, then you can complete the assessment by yourself or in conjunction with a health professional.
Wow, that's fascinating. Fascinating. And I think you have a story that we were talking about earlier. Could you tell our audience that story?
Yeah. Well, I guess the question came about, why we're here ultimately, and that's to help understand how the mind affects weight loss. And the example that we was having a chat about was one particular lady, and when we were, if you have a look at the health type test, and there's there's 6 different health types that come out, and then when you do the full assessment, there's actually 8 billion types that come out because you're an individual, but we classify the 6 types first, which is far better than just saying everyone's the same or everyone needs the same. At least we can say that definitely there's 6 different types of people, with a lot of individual variation. And her particular type was the Guardian. And the Guardian is a body that has typically the most amount of muscle, the most amount of bone, and has the capacity, not necessarily has the most, but has the capacity to store the greatest amount of fat tissue as well. And so this is the stoutest body. This is the strongest body. And so with this body comes along that example that I mentioned before, the prolactin dominance. They have this innate and subconscious and very dominant drive of taking care of other people. And the really fascinating part about this is that evolution said, okay, we're going to give the most nurturing genes to the biggest body. Because if the biggest body has the most aggressive genes, then they're going to kill everyone. And we don't want that because they're the most resilient, they're the strongest. If we give them the most aggressive genes, then no one's going to survive. So we need to make sure that our strongest people are also our most nurturing. And so this is the really fascinating part about this, is that this body, when it stresses, it gains weight. And the reason why it gains weight is because it says, well, if I'm stressing, then everybody else around me must be stressing. And I need to take care of those people because my prolactin is telling me I need to take care of these people. That's where my goals are focused, on making sure my community is safe. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to eat more food right now. And I'm also going to slow down my activity because my body's telling me I need to conserve energy. And so the weight gain starts happening when there's some sort of stress. And this is the really interesting thing, and I'll just talk about this and then we'll really get into the story, but it's important this happens as a frame, in that so many women, particularly when you fall pregnant, your prolactin levels increase. And so many women are thinking all the time that my body is working against me. My body is working against me. I'm in this fight with my body. I'm trying to do all these things and my weight just keeps going on. And the realization that we need to have is that your body at all times is protecting you in the best way it can. It says this environment is not safe. And so with what I'm going to do with this non-safe environment is I'm going to store weight because that's what my body does, because I need to protect my community. If I'm stressed, you're definitely going to be stressed because I'm the most resilient. I'm the strongest. And so this understanding that nurturing actually will equal a conservation type metabolism is really important, because women love the fact that they're nurturers, particularly these types of women. They're the guardians. It's a real pride that they look after their family, that they're the last person standing. And so this is such a contrast of self-love, because I want to be a nurturer and I don't like everything else that comes along with it. And it just creates an internal conflict. So the thing that I would remind everyone is that your body at all times, regardless of what it's doing, is doing everything it can to protect itself and to protect the people around you based on the environment it's got. And different people with different environments will occur different ways. So this particular guardian, we know for guardians, their priority is very much, are my physical needs met? Are my finances in order? Do I have a roof over my head? Is there enough food on my table? If those things are covered, a lot of the stress out of a guardian will disappear. But if we take someone like a crusader or even particular types of diplomats, what will happen is that their brain is very much focused on their career. And so if they don't reach their career goals, then they experience that stress. Their family goals don't matter as much. And I know that sounds a little bit cold-hearted, but that's just sometimes it's just the way brains are built. So this particular lady, she was thinking about changing her job, and she was in a stable job, and she goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I don't have any money now. My finances are insecure now because I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in my current job, and I don't have a job to go to. And knowing that she was a guardian, she didn't actually present with the stress around finances. She presented with the stress around cravings. She said, I've had a bad week. I've been craving food. I've stagnated with my changes. We saw some good change at the start. Now it's stagnated. I said, okay, no problem. Being a guardian, the things I'm going to check are social. So how are your relationships at home? And she said, everything is totally awesome at home. I feel really good. No problem whatsoever. Okay, great. And that's a big check for a guardian, because their family is one of the most pivotal parts of their metabolism. If there's family stress, their metabolism will slow down because they need to protect their family. So I said, what about finances? She says, well, and told me the story about thinking about changing her job. So I said, okay, are you being pushed out of your job right now? And they said, no, I've been so committed and so loyal, which is a trait of the guardian as well, that they said, I'll have my job forever if I want it. And I said, well, that's really securing. And I said, what about, do you know what job you want to go to? She says, not really. And I said, so if we change nothing right now, is there any stress on finances at all? She goes, no, we've got heaps coming in. There's no problem whatsoever. I said, okay, cool. So what she was doing, she was projecting forward a year where she doesn't have a job, and she was bringing that anxiety back. But the really important thing is that the thing that was making her anxious and the thing that really drives her body is this baseline security of, do I have enough money for my family? That's the thing that drives her. And so that was creating stress. And so I said, right, well, how about we don't change anything until you've got another job absolutely locked in? How about if we did that, how would you feel? And she said, oh, that actually feels really good. And obviously I'm speeding the whole process up here. From that day on, for the next 2 weeks, absolutely no cravings. And the important thing here is she didn't feel safe because her finances were being challenged, because for her, finances are very important and the safety of her family is very important. And as soon as we rested that and changed her mind around what that stress was for her right now, the stress went away, that safety requirement went away, and so she didn't need to go after those other foods, which is effectively what the craving is. It's, I need to protect myself, I need to hoard. And so when she doesn't have that stress, she then doesn't have that requirement to go and search for those foods.
Wow, so it sounds like it's a combination of whatever the client's perception is of some factors in their life combined with their body type. Is that right?
Very much so. It's a combination of, well, it's always perception. There is how we perceive the world is our reality. Right. And effectively what this tool allows you to do, it allows you to narrow and say, well, I know the major stresses are going to be coming from the physical safety, the finances, the food, the house. Whereas for another person, I wouldn't have started at all there. I would have said, right, how aligned do you feel with the work you're doing right now? Are you getting enough meditation time in? Because the opposite type of brain is constantly focusing on outside themselves, or no, inside themselves. They're constantly focusing on, I need to achieve for me, because they don't have the same resilience. They don't have the muscle. They don't have the fat tissue. So if they get stuck out in the cold, their survival is very short. And so they need a very active brain to maintain their safety, as opposed to a very resilient body that maintains their safety. So the opposite end of the spectrum, they actually need to calm their brain down because their brain gets very amped up when they're stressed, because that's how they avoid danger, is to think things through ahead of time so they don't have to come into the physical danger. So it's definitely a combination of perception, and then the biotype or the health type allows you to narrow in on where is the top priority for this stress, what's going to be creating this stress first.
Yeah, so what's empowering about what you offer, it sounds like, is that after some sessions with you, these women mostly, we're usually the ones who are fighting weight, go away from the work with you with concepts and specific things that they can do in specific times of the day, because eating at specific times of the day for each type is a very specific science. So what you're actually maybe fundamentally doing, tell me if you can agree with this, is expanding their awareness, and then health follows that because they're making better lifestyle choices according to their body and mind.
Absolutely. And that's our first stage, is to increase awareness. And, you know, one of the more fascinating things is, obviously, foods aren't something that we have this intuition for often, unless we've been doing it for a long time. You know, giving the black and white on what foods are best and what timing, yes, definitely. But then the realizations of how our brain is being driven, which is outlined in a lot of detail for each individual, how their mind works at work, how their mind works in a social setting. Understanding those, the scary accuracy of what we can do now with understanding the mind, really then gives you a leg up to say, oh, that's my mind worrying about finances. I can see how that would normally cause me cravings, because it doesn't make me feel safe. It actually creates a bit of anxiety for me. But I can just see that my mind is doing that, and I can stay over here as an observer. So we definitely increase awareness. We then allow choice, and it gives people a choice to say, I'm going to engage with that emotion right now, or I'm not going to engage. And then the action comes from that.
Yeah, that is so beautiful, Dr. Cam, because we humans really are all about choice. And a lot of times we don't really realize how profound that is.
Yes.
And just to kind of go back a little bit, we can choose better if we know the better choices to make. So, and that's what you tell us all about in your program.
Yeah,
Excellent,
exactly.
excellent. So I know that we have touched on, you know, that you are giving us in the link on this page, but and we've kind of gone back to it a few times. So why don't you give us a succinct kind of description of what that gift is?
Oh, fantastic! Yes, the gift is the health type test, which is effectively a 3-minute test to understand your health type. And what that does, it takes very simple measures of your body, and you are perceiving. That's part of the health type test. Is you say, right, okay, my body is this picture or that picture or this picture, and it asks a number of other questions as well. And what that does is, from those types of features, we can extrapolate a lot of information, and so you get a quite extensive report on your category of person, and then what types of things really drive that person socially, genius-wise or career-wise, even mentally. And then it also looks at some general timings for bodies within that type as well. There's an opportunity to then go on and do the full assessment, and the full assessment will then get down to the very specific hours that you should be doing it specifically for you, and that even changes within the same health type as well. So the health type test is a incredible eye-opener into, you know what, people are actually different to me, and this is a very important piece for acceptance. I would say that we have awareness is one of our big things right now, and then acceptance, which is part of our action phase. Of, you know what, I noticed that brain is very different, and they're wanting to look after me and they're wanting to spend time with me, when my brain wants to go over here and just do work on my computer. But I can see that that's very important to their body, and I now accept that, and I could actually allocate time. I could put a checklist bit on my list to say, spend 5 minutes with partner, you know, to make sure that I'm satisfying my brain, and I'm also satisfying her requirement for more time as well, and we're both winning. And so as much as it's about you understanding yourself, that's definitely the number one thing that we're trying to help people do, is understand more about themselves and reconnect with themselves. Because what I find, when people start reconnecting with themselves, they actually feel a whole lot better, and they don't want to deviate as much from, and this is one of the big things with health programs is, you know, I'm a guru, you should follow my protocol, and then in 6 months when it doesn't feel great, it doesn't change, I want you to continue. Well, the really cool thing about this whole program is that it will, as you change, as you remeasure, particularly the full version, it will actually change the advice. And it changes with you, so that it's always up to date with your current state of health. And that from an advancement in health and personalized health is exactly what we need. Because when you're 10, you've got the same genes as when you're 40. And but your gene expression is very, very different. A 10-year-old needs something very different to a 40-year-old. And so this takes that into account and allows you to constantly stay up to date with what's best for you right now. And then once you've got that sorted, you can start saying, "Right, I wonder how this person differs over here." And through that, become a lot more accepting of the people around you. And, you know, imagine when we start doing that en masse, we start accepting people for who they are en masse. It becomes a pretty incredible community, and then leaks out into this thing called humanity as well. So the mission is a lot more than just understanding the food and the exercise. If we have an environment of acceptance and love, which comes from accepting yourself first, which is a very important part of it, and feeling good within yourself, coming out of stress, allows you to then focus on other people. You know, if we can achieve that, then it'll really create a foundation for a really phenomenal community and humanity.
Excellent. Wow. I'm really new to your work, and I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait to go deeper into my test results that I got back. And so we're going to sign off for now. And I'm so glad to talk with you, Dr. Cam, with ph360.com. And
It's ph360.me. It's all about me, remember?
That's right, me, ph360.me. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, viewers. Really appreciate you taking a look at these interviews. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.